Joey, I'm going to take a risk here. I actually tried to reverse engineer your process from the book, and here's what I wrote
I
down.
love it.
And I want you to tell me if I'm anywhere close. Are
Okay.
you ready?
Yes, sir.
So I wrote this: deliberate focus. You start with that to identify limiting beliefs and rewire them through visualization, affirmations, but not the classic kind, backed by a meditation practice and specific journaling method that helps bring unconscious patterns into awareness. And it all revolves around what you call the dynamic vision, which turns the impossible into the inevitable. Then it's anchored with accelerated micro habits built on the core anchor habit, tracked, celebrated, emotionally charged, and reinforced with accountability. Joey, how close was that?
You did well, but it doesn't matter. This whole method is based on working from 2 points of reference. Where are you right now? You're not getting the growth in your business. You have no balance. Whatever it is, where are you at right now? And then through the visioning we develop, where do you want to be? And in that, I've been able to help hundreds of clients over the past decade to make that transition in a way that's enjoyable, in a way that's celebrated, in a way that's growth oriented and such.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening, nodding. They believe you, they believe us, but now they're wondering, so what do I do with this? Can you walk us through what SMT looks like in practice? Like if you were coaching me tomorrow,
Yes.
where would we start?
The whole thing, there's a process to it, but again, I'll say it's a unique pathway, a unique journey for every individual. So, but every client I work with, we come out of the gate developing what's called a dynamic vision. So we have goals, right? We're used to living on goals. Goals are hit or miss, things like that. So, but developing a vision, getting the clarity in that vision is what makes a vision powerful. Vision boards, affirmations, things like that, where we get the visual of it and the clarity of that visual. But then to elevate it to dynamic, we add that feeling tone. What's it going to feel like when your business goes from $1 million to $15 million? What's that going to feel like to live there? You know, I had a client that went from $7.5 million to over $22 million in within 12 months, and they couldn't even fathom what that would be like. So what we did is we built it to 15 to 12.5 million, actually, from 7.5, and because they could see that then and get that clarity. And then as we hit that, we just kept altering that vision and updating that vision to get to the next and next and next, going up with it and stuff. But yeah, so coming out of the gate, it's so important to get the clarity of, we talk about the whys, right? Why do you want this? Or the five. And so with that, that's good, but it doesn't give you the clarity that a dynamic vision does, where you can read through that thing, or I have my clients record it so they can listen to it while they're driving, and you're describing to yourself being in that situation of where you want to be at. Man, that's just so exciting to see that grow. And so even in developing that vision, we're going to bump into that programming that's causing limitation, right? Because that client that went from 7.5 to 22 million, all they wanted to do is go to 10 million. I helped them stretch it to 12.5. And in doing that, we started bumping up against those paradigms and the patterns within the subconscious. So we identified, we shifted that, moved it forward, settled on the 12.5. And now as we started growing to that, it was just like you just see it opens bigger and bigger and bigger. And I know the first time I work with a client, that vision we developed, that dynamic vision, it's not their end point, because as we change, our vision becomes as alive as we do. So as we change, as we evolve, as we grow, that vision's going to as well. That's the human condition. And then the other side of that is when we have that vision, what we do then in the SMT method is we start living through that vision being our reality versus our situations and circumstances surrounding us. Because the situations, circumstances, something happens, state of the economy or something, and business reacts. We see how stocks react, and business people that react to that, man, they're doing this all the time in their business with the up, down, and everything else. Where when we have that vision, they become just little speed bumps. The situation,
When you're
circumstance.
saying we live that reality, are you talking about the accelerating habit?
I've not even gotten to that yet. This is all just about the vision and the power of it and what it does is what. So yeah, when we're living by that vision being our reality, then in doing so, we start taking the situation circumstances that usually bog us down and cause a lot of problems and anxieties and all that, and all of a sudden they become small because we know that vision is where we're headed to, and this is just what it looks like as that vision is unfolding. And so there's other tools within that vision of how we put that on and utilize that to live through as our reality.
So the first step would be to develop that dynamic vision. And just to make clear that I understood, the word dynamic comes because this vision is changing, it's evolving, it's malleable. Or the word dynamic is because that vision is something you not only write down, it's something you also see, feel, hear, smell, and maybe even touch.
I'd say it's both.
That's the first step. What's the second step?
That's where we began. So now you got this vision. Now you're excited about the vision. Now what we do, we start bridging that gap from where we are to where we want to be. We check and do stuff, make sure the vision's in alignment and things like that with who we are authentically. And so, but then we start bridging that gap. In bridging that gap, what we're doing is we're starting to develop, and there's different modules that, go through, break it smaller than what we're talking about, but we start bridging that gap from where we are to where we'll be in that vision. And in doing so, one of the things we start doing is we start developing systems of accelerating habits that are unique to the individual. So we start looking at the things. I'll give you a quick example. You ever see somebody do a social media live and you can tell they can't stand being there? They're uncomfortable, they're fidgety, don't want to look at the camera. How long do you
Absolutely.
watch those things for?
I don't.
Me neither. I feel bad for the person. Now you ever see somebody do a social media live and the cameras, and you can tell the camera is their home? You end up
Right.
watching that person, you get more out of it, right? It's the same analogy we use in developing it. For some people, doing things that other people and sales strategies and business growth and stuff tell you have to do, they don't fit that person. So what I do is I work with the client and figure out what are those things that light you up? What are those things where you're at home doing? And then we find more time to do those things. And in doing so, I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that was important to me is when I do something is I want to, if I do something and I can get a quick win, man, then all of a sudden it opens up the doorway of my excitement to go deeper. And so most clients, even in developing that vision, will have something happen. I don't want to say what exactly because it changes, but something happen in that development that just hits onto something that's like, oh my God, this is real. And from there, they got so much more excitement charged into the rest of the process.
If you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't miss out on my free Burnout Free Business Guide. It's a simple 7-day plan to help you reset your relationship with your business, improve your mindset, and achieve more while staying balanced. You can download it right now by using the link in the description. What I got from reading this section of the book was, maybe I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of a bold claim that not every change is hard to do. There are habits that are hard because they're just not where you should be starting at. But there are changes that are going to be easier, maybe even fun to do, even if you hadn't done it until now, because that's in alignment with who you are and what you want to achieve. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I found that, and like every client I've worked with has found, yes, because, walking away from corporate America after a 28-year career building from the ground up to a vice president of sales and all this stuff in that, helping elevate a majority of my sales teams to top producers, things like that through corporate, and then walking away. And I didn't know anybody down here when I started. If it wasn't for having these tools, I would have never taken that step. And it was a scary step even in doing so with it, but it helped me to come about it in a way that just put alignment to things. And all of a sudden the move down here was easy and it was fun, just like I wanted it to be. Once I got down here and I would I started out, when I got here, handing out 5 business cards a day, talking to people. That's what I would do because I love talking to people anyway. So, and so I would give out 5 business cards. And if there was a day I only gave out 3, the next day I gave out 7. So I kept it on track like that. And all of a sudden these things just start opening up for me. And all I was doing was talking to people. We don't have to effort near to the degree that we think we do. We have to take actions. I can't sit on my couch with a bag of potato chips and expect my business to grow. So I do have to take actions. But the actions can be enjoyable. I'll give you another example. When I was in corporate America, if I had to be in the office 2 days in a row after 5 o'clock, beyond 5 p.m., I would get upset. I would be bothered. I felt like I was taken advantage of. It would really just kind of steam me and stuff. There's times in doing what I do now that I'll do my stuff during the day and then I'll go home and do whatever, gym, eat, whatever, come back. And 10, 11 o'clock at night. And the next room next to me here is my recording studio. So I'll just do recordings, of different things and everything else. There's times I get done at 3:30 in the morning, and I leave and I can't sleep. I'm so excited and that I get to do this. So that's part of that transformation, is instead of have tos, living life by have tos, which brings in the struggle, effort, all of that stuff, makes everything we do harder, is we start getting into that alignment of, man, I get to do this. I get to do this. And part of the thing that's always magic for me is I get to do it in a way that feels good to me. You think about that differences in those. How could it not be easier?
Right. So it's not about just only working less hours. It's about working on things that lightens you up in alignment with with who you are and with what you love to do. That just makes it easier, and you can work because many people are saying there's no such thing as work-life balance. You know what I'm talking about. There's no such thing as fine as working less hours and having like this period of time for work, this period of time for family, this period of time for taking care of your body and your health and whatever. When they do what they love, when they do what they care about, when they do what they feel is aligned with their mission and vision, then it doesn't feel like out of balance. Even they can work 12-hour, 14-hour day, but still feel like they're totally balanced.
Yeah, and the other thing it does is helps us when we get out of that hustle bustle mode like that, it helps us to reprioritize our life. So I've taken people who are working 10, 12, 13, 14 hours a day.
Mhm.
The person I talked about with the business that went from 7.5 to 22 million, they were so busy they had no time for family, they had no time for exercise, no time for friends, like nothing other than work, work, work. As we started doing it and the business started growing, all of a sudden they have more time to put in those because we reprioritize things. And I'll tell you something that's in that statement you said that always makes me sad, is somebody that says you can't have a successful business without and have life balance can never achieve.
What doesn't make you sad, Joey?
The fact that that person that walks around saying that will never get the opportunity to experience the flow of things, and because they're one of the things I look for in every client is you have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to believe something beyond what you know can work to bring this about, and that's what the SMT method is. It's a proven system to help do that. But if somebody believes I always call it a beginner mindset, right? Because we all know a lot of things. So I'll meet a lot of people who are, I know. You have to, you have to grind and everything else, and in order to have a success. Okay, then I can't help that person. It makes me sad because I know that's not true, but I can't force anybody. What I do isn't for those who need it, it's for those who want it. And that's where the sadness comes in, that I can't help this person. So if they don't have that beginner mindset, is simply, I know a lot, but what can I learn here that I can add to what I already know? That's a beginner mindset. That's somebody that I look for in my initial calls with people, because if you have that, there's no stopping you. There's no stopping how far you can go. There's no stopping how much balance you can have. But I've had clients before. I had one in particular who wholesaled restaurants and such, and he would tell me that we talked one day. He goes, I don't even have an hour to play my guitar during the week. I'm so busy. I go, you can't find 1 hour? And he goes, no. I go, okay, take out a piece of paper. I went through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we had like 6, 7, 8 hours that he could play his guitar. And do you know that changed that man? Because instead of looking at how busy he was, he shifted that, and he could start looking for all the open areas he had in his weeks.
Joey, does it make you sad maybe because you were that person that worked so hard and paid the price? Maybe feels like he shouldn't have and doesn't want other people to feel like you felt back then?
It starts with that. Because back when I was doing that, I was following what I had learned, and I was doing it to the absolute best of my ability, and it got me nowhere. And more, I thought there was something wrong with me. And I just continued following those things. And there was a while when I wouldn't really look into any other things. I just knew if I did it long enough, somehow something's going to happen, right? And then as I started learning this stuff, and my whole life transformed. When I meet somebody now, I know what's possible for them. But I know I can't spark that beginner mindset in them, so it makes me sad because I know how they're living. And I know they're going to continue going on with that because of not being willing to be open to something different could work better.
And thank God for your book, because that could mean a start for a lot of people. It can be opening the door to changing that mentality for so many people who up until now had to meet you and do the actual
Yes.
work and invest and be ready. Now they can start with the book. So congratulations on that step.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, if you've been watching so far, that tells me you're getting value from this video. So please write a comment, ask a question, and I'd love to support you further. Joey, I'm going to take a risk here. I actually tried to reverse engineer your process from the book, and here's what I wrote down.
I love it.
And I want you to tell me if I'm anywhere close.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
So I wrote this: deliberate focus. You start with that to identify limiting beliefs and rewire them through visualization, affirmations, but not the classic kind. Backed by a meditation practice and specific journaling method that helps bring unconscious patterns into awareness. And it all revolves around what you call the dynamic vision, which turns the impossible into the inevitable. Then it's anchored with accelerated micro habits built on a core anchor habit, tracked, celebrated, emotionally charged, and reinforced with accountability. Joey, how close was that?
You did well. If I ever had the delight of you and I getting to work together, that would be very much the path. Somebody else, they may not meditate, they may not write, they may not, do the. So when I talk about the uniqueness, but yeah, I mean, as far as the high level points of that, absolutely, that's what it is. Is it's taking actions that cause us, that open up that vision, but then bump into that programming so we can at least be aware of it. Once we're aware of it, we can do something. Unless we're aware of it, we're unconsciously living so big percentages of our life through that programming. So once we bring awareness to it, then we can take the tools and we can shift that. We can do perception shifting and, variety of things that I utilize as far as the toolkits for that, based on the individual again, and based on the programming and things like that. So, and it's helped people in business. It's helped people in their personal lives. I'll tell you one of mine that was a really big one. Okay.
Sure.
I'm pretty excited person. I'm pretty positive person. I have like a energy about me that I love but there was a long time in my life, if exciting things happened and my excitement level started rising, I would stop it because it scared me, because I didn't know how far it was going to go. So I would have to control that within me. And I lived for years not knowing that. For years I lived with that. And so as I started recognizing that, I could look at my business back then and I could see where my business would start growing, and that excitement would grow. And then the excitement would start, I'd control it. And then I'd watch the business. Like I can look back at my records and see where that happens, but I was not aware of it when it was happening for so long. So that programming within my subconscious, things happened growing up and the way I grew up and things like that and stuff, where it was I was told I was wrong for displaying excitement the way I did and such. And I didn't know how to do it differently. So I just kind of shut that down. And so when I start getting to that level, it's like, okay, let's bring it. And I try to control it to a certain point, but you can actually see the parallelism between when I control that, and all of a sudden business will follow it and stuff. So I've had to understand and shift that programming. See, this is one of the magic, really awesome things about this. So often people will be able to identify where it came from and stuff, but it doesn't matter. This whole method is based on working from 2 points of reference. Where are you right now? You're not getting the growth in your business. You have no balance. Whatever it is, where are you at right now? And then through the visioning we develop, where do you want to be? And in that, I've been able to help hundreds of clients over the past decade to make that transition in a way that's enjoyable, in a way that's celebrated, in a way that's growth oriented and such.
Yeah.
I'll have people ask me, are you going to hold me accountable? I go, no. I don't want to hold you accountable. What I want to do is ignite you so freaking strong that you become accountable for yourself. And if I can do that through that vision and help you start putting that on and start getting some wins in that area, you don't need somebody to, you don't need somebody to hold you accountable. The only time we need people to hold us accountable is when we're doing a bunch of things that we don't want to do and we can't stand doing. That's when we need somebody to, but who wants to live that way anyways? When we can get into alignment with what feels good for us and start utilizing and tapping into and bringing out those unique gifts and talents in ways we don't need somebody to hold us accountable. What we need to do is get ourselves into alignment with who we really are and what we really desire to experience in this lifetime. In doing that, the accountability is built in.
Wow. Oh, hey, you're here. Listen, if you're liking this video, please hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel more than you know. Enjoy watching the rest of the video. Yeah, to me, that's one of the most unique things about your approach is that you always look for the path of least resistance or maybe even the path of no resistance. And you're not about, like we talked about, hustle and discipline. Although you need to have discipline, you need to do stuff consistently. You of course you promote consistency and sticking with the process, but it's not about forcing yourself. It's not about, like have to, should do. Like you said, it's about what flows with you. Joey, once someone started and utilizing those tools, so what does a week of this looks like? How does it evolve over time? And what are the signals? Maybe that's the most important question. What are the signals that they're doing it right? How do I know that I'm in the right direction?
And a lot of people will confuse this at first because they'll start feeling they'll be into starting their vision and they'll start feeling this pressure against it. I can't do this, but I can't expect and right there, people will go, man, I'm really stuck on this. I can't believe I'm stuck. And I go, whoa, hold on. You're noticing the programming. That's what you're doing. That's what this is geared to do. So when you notice, it takes people a little while, but once they start understanding what's happening, they'll call me up and they'll go, hey, this just happened. And I know and I go, yeah, it is, bro. And they go from a place of, man, I'm not doing this right because I feel like this to, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be feeling. This is what it's supposed to be like. If I don't identify it, I can't shift it and I can't experience anything different.
Perfect. You've seen this work with hundreds of people. What separates the one who know this from the ones who actually shift?
There's been a couple people I've worked with who have made gains, but then there's people who have made really huge gains. The difference in it is a person who's not fully, they don't give themselves fully to it. So one of the things I won't do any longer is if somebody's working on it in depth, and when I say in depth, the SMT method, it comes across, there's an online module, all that stuff. So every week there's audio to listen to, so we hear it. There's writing that we read through, so we learn from there. And then there's exercises and things like that I put in there along with it, so we can actually, it's a form of journaling, right? So we're actually doing that. So we're coming from all different areas to learn the material and understand it and things like that. So if somebody's working in another program like that, I will no longer work with them simultaneously, because where any of my clients have really struggled is when they're in a program that's all about strategy and how to do it. It's all about logical mind stuff and doing it. There's a continuous confusion because that's the opposite of how I go about it. I go about it from getting into alignment, shifting the programming and patterning. It's very difficult for them to be able to go from one to the other each week and do it.
It's like they go deep into strategy. You go deep into understanding yourself.
And I'll give you an analogy. I had somebody who they're helping build an offer for the person and it was a $50,000 offer and things like that and stuff. And so then he's telling me about it and he's all excited. And I go, okay, let me ask you a couple questions. How does that align for you? Or like, how does that feel for you? And within a couple questions, he's going, that's not even really the right thing. That's not even what I really want to do. But we get bought into that stuff based on logic and the promise and the potential and everything else. And we start following it. And what are we doing? We're contorting who we are to fit that model and that process versus identifying a model and process that adjusts to fit us.
I've touched upon the uniqueness of the affirmation, and I want to talk about some common grounds of the uniqueness of the affirmations and also the journaling, everything you talked about. I mean, we heard those words, but you see them different than what we know. Let's concentrate on the affirmations
Okay.
first. So what's different about from the way that you speak about and see affirmations than the way most people see them?
I used to buy books on affirmations and I would write them. I'd write them 21 times a day. I'd write them, different numbers of times throughout the day and things like that and stuff. And I couldn't figure out why I was not seeing life differently in my life experience on the outside. And what I came to realize and I've come to realize through the development of what's become the SMT method is I have to do things in a way that my subconscious buys into it. If I say today I have $10 billion and I'm scratching financially to make ends meet, my subconscious, that scratching is so big. Any affirmation I put in there like that is not going to really impact the subconscious at some level. So I have to do it in a way, and it might be a little bit smaller step than the $10 million, but I have to do it in a way that in the way I state it and such that isn't where my subconscious has to cancel something to buy into this. We just buy into it. I easily accept new prosperity thoughts. It's one somebody taught me that one there, my subconscious can't reject that. I easily accept new prosperities. I easily accept new ways of doing what I do to be more impactful. My subconscious can't reject that. Now, it doesn't say I'm a millionaire or this or that or anything. It's just so once we start on that and then we can build on that. And when I say that, although it took me years and decades to understand this, my clients, what took me years to achieve, are doing in weeks now. So it's not a long process, but we have to start them at a level where our subconscious will buy into it, and then we can start expanding that and elevating that and such like that. But if I come into out of the gate with $10 billion and I'm scratching, it's not gonna. It's wasted effort, really.
Joey, what was your own tipping point of success? I have to talk about it. It's the subject of the podcast. What was your own tipping point of success, that moment where things truly shifted for you, not just externally, but internally?
I mean, there were so many of them. One of the big ones I'll tell you is all the years I struggled. There was 7, 8 years I was building territories, and I would do some sales, but very minimal compared to what I expected for sure. But then even with what my objectives were and such, and as I start implementing these tools, and as I start understanding my conditioning, as I started understanding, for all those earlier years, I was trying to fit myself into being a salesperson. So what if I just be me and I'm doing sales? And when I started doing that within months, I started landing $18 million year-over-year contracts, $22 million. The largest contract I was awarded was a 5-year, $25 million annual contract that took an organization from a $50 to a $75 million organization in doing so. And they became easy. That's when all of a sudden I get the thought of, oh man, I haven't talked to Bill. I should give him a call because I saw him that quote. And those things would happen. And like everything just started shifting around.
What's the biggest difference from being a sales guy to being you?
It took me a while when I left corporate, because that's another thing. We get into jobs, whether it's corporate or whatever it is, and we're receiving programming on that. Being in corporate forces us to live more logical with action plans, with strategies, with backup plans, with all this stuff and everything else and such. So it reinforces that programming of that. And what I had to do was say, as I started understanding and shifting this stuff, and as I'm shifting this programming without fully aware of it, I started shifting from being contorted into just being me. And so now when I went in and talked to somebody, I wasn't nervous about what potential, whether I was going to get awarded. I would just go in and talk to them, and just to talk to them. I would have people that had, thrown the company out years ago that I'd go into, and I'd bring Dunkin' Donuts coffees. I did that one time, and it led to us doing that every month for about 4 months. And then we started getting their business again and such, and it allowed me to start being me. It allowed me to start like authentically, I care about other people. So if we sit down and talk, I want to know about you. I want to know what you've been through. I want to know all the things we're talking about here with regards to me. I want to know in reverse and stuff. And it allowed that person to come out of me more. And in doing so, all of a sudden people wanted to work with me more. Even if I wasn't a low bid, I would get awarded programs. And there's times people would say, be late on delivery or something. They'd say, "We hate your company, but we love you." And I was just being me then. I wasn't being something false to fit a role. Does that make sense? I don't.
It makes a lot of sense. And I'm trying to think, when you're working with sales teams, do you come into the room and say, okay, here's a script. Let's throw it out the window and tell me about you and what lights you up, and let's start from there?
A little bit different, but very, very close to that. When somebody gets into sales and they go through their first year of sales training and get no products and everything, part of the whole thing is how they
Because
sell
you
the
still want
scripts.
to, you want to land a deal, right? You want to get the sale.
Yes, the processes, all that stuff. So we go through that. So I'll give a talk to groups, but I work one-on-one with clients because I used to do groups and I just found people didn't get the same level of results as one-on-one. So that's my, what I do and why I do it and such. So I will go in and I'll do a quick half-hour interview with each of the people, and then I'll work with whoever the executive is, director, VP, whatever, of sales. And then from there, I'll say, here's the candidates that I feel could help you, could be your top potential to get to top producers. And then when I sit down and talk to that person, they usually have a whole slate of stuff they do in order to sell. Realtors is a really good one. They get their license, they get some training, and the training is all these things we have to do in order to be successful. And they're trying to do this. And what I do is help them look at what do you feel comfortable with? What do you like to do? Well, first, I'll start with the vision, but then we'll go into, as we start developing those systems of accelerating habit, what is it that lights you up? What things are you good at doing? What things are you comfortable with? And what we come out of that with is items that they're doing that they're no longer contorting. They're just being them. And in doing that, we see greater results happening in every communication, every phone call, every interaction they have, and then let alone all the outside stuff that starts showing up.
Wow. A lot to think about, and to work in my own business, to work it out. Uh, so Joey, there's so many frameworks out there for subconscious reprogramming, affirmations, habit stacking, books. We heard about them. In your words, your own words, what makes SMT different? What do you believe it's solving that others miss?
I know what's different is it's designed to work off the uniqueness of every individual, the uniqueness of their programming, the uniqueness of their desires, the uniqueness of their lives, like all of that feeds into it. That's one thing that's different. And then the other side of it is why it works. Any program that forces us to be something other than who we naturally are is not going to bring near the impact of living through who we are. The whole purpose of us being here is had unique gifts and talents placed within us. And the whole purpose is to bring those outwardly. I can't be like somebody else and live through those gifts and talents. What I'm trying to do is mimic their gifts and talents and bring that to my life. And it never works the same. The process of getting there is much more frustrating, and what we think at that point is, well, I need more of their help now because it's getting more frustrating. When realistically, it's taken me, I've experienced that firsthand numerous times. I've invested a lot. And each time it was like, man, I'm not getting enough help here. Well, it wasn't that I wasn't getting enough help. It wasn't tailored for me. And that's what makes all the difference with it, is when we start coming from who we authentically are, who we really are, shift that programming, we open up this to have such an incredible impact, whether it's how much we sell, the people we impact, the relationships we build, whatever it is, all the way through. It grows so much when we're coming from that avenue versus don't care what I do, I just want the business growth.
Coming to almost the end of the conversation, if you could leave every purpose-driven entrepreneur watching this with one truth, one sentence they repeat until it becomes real in their lives, what would it be?
There are possibilities and ways of growing your business that can be joyful through that process. It can be enjoyable. It can be, something to be celebrated, and it can be fun, and it can be with a flow, and it can allow for life balance while it's happening. You just got to be open to believing that there is a possibility of that.